Hey everybody, Jared here. So I started this podcast during COVID, during 2020. So this episode, I really want to dive into. There's this situation that's all over the news, basically, and this individual, Nolan Tyler Wells. So he went on a boating trip with his friends, right? And apparently, they ended up finding him dead. In my opinion, just looking at this surface value, it's a black, young black man who goes missing, and nobody knows what happened to him, right? And this happens countless times in America, across the world, and down south, especially in states like Mississippi. I think anybody who is found guilty, I think the friends that he was on the boat with, they should all be tried. Anybody who he was with that night should be tried, because there's no way somebody with all these friends, they even blurred their face out. All these friends goes missing on an island and found dead. It just sounds so suspicious, and I've heard countless stories like. Even Google is blurring their faces out. These individuals should be ashamed of themselves for not watching over their friend and allowed their friend to die. They should be ashamed of themselves, and the parents of this individual are hurting. All across this country this happens all the time, and I think the individuals who are responsible, the parents, should also be prosecuted. Anybody who was involved in, that's a dereliction of your duty as a friend, as an individual, whether you're with somebody or not, like, to watch over them. That's just human dignity. And I think Nolan Tyler Wells was a good individual, and he had a lot of friends, and I think what needs to happen here is, unfortunately, your emphasis on life of somebody who's a minority over a Caucasian white individual, that's wrong, and that's a wrong perception, and that's wrong to put somebody's life over another because of their skin color. I think that's wrong, and I also think it's wrong on the American people for not wanting more justice for cases like this. And the district attorney that was involved in Mississippi, I think they should be tried. They should be jailed. The coroner should be jailed. Like, what are you doing with the throat? What are you doing with the stomach? Like, it's just weird. And that's why when things like this happen, I believe people should always have an independent autopsy. Because, the state, the police are always going to try to cover their ass. As unfortunate as that is, in America, our police will cover up their own asses. Our police will lie for each other, and that's wrong. That's why we started having body cams on our police, because not everybody's telling the actual facts of what happened, in any of these cases, whether it's him, whether it's the individual who was in the high school locker room, who was wrapped up in a mat. Like, okay, so you're gonna try to go into a mat for your shoes, you get stuck and then die. Nobody notices you for hours. Like, that just sounds so unlikely, highly unlikely. And this also seems highly unlikely that, he has his clothes on after they had a last video of him with his shorts on. This is murder. These individuals should go to jail. They should go to prison. The family that's covering up for them, because that's what's happening here, is the parents of these kids, they're trying to cover it up. And they know what they did. You know what you did. And a lot of people watch my podcast and watch my videos. And, maybe one day somebody's going to watch this. You guys know what you did. You guys know what you did to this individual. An 18-year-old boy, you're going to kill him? For what reason? This is why minorities in these types of group of friendships, predominantly white, if you're one black guy with 5 white friends, like, you gotta evaluate that. Like, your safety comes first. Your safety as an individual, your friend's safety, make sure you have their back. You know, if there are other black folks in the friend group, or minorities, Hispanics, whatever. But this is serious, and this is a time in this country where we need to be vigilant. This is an issue that's going to be persistent, and we're going to have to be very strategic how we approach this with prosecuting these people, investigating these people, and getting money back for these families that have been affected by this issue, this manifestation, this racist backstory, whatever you want to call it. But this is wrong, and this is just my opinion. I think the American people deserve answers, and this family deserves answers, and they're asking people to come up, you know, for $100,000 to come up with information to help prosecute and find who did this and get some answers. But this is wrong. It's tragic. It's heartbreaking. There's his mom. This is heartbreaking. Tyler Perry paid for his funeral and donated $50,000 to the reward fund. So there's a reward fund to help find, investigate, and bring light some information. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video, and you know, we're better than this as Americans, as human beings. And you know, this is why every person in America should own a firearm, protect yourself, own a knife, pepper spray, bear mace, and stay vigilant. You know, don't trust, you know, as unfortunate as this, we live in a time where you can't trust your friends, you can't trust your neighbors. And this is another example of that. You can't trust your own friends. You know, this young man thought his friends had his back, and he ends up dead on an island. It's sad, it's repulsive, it's below humanity, it's disgusting, it's vile, and we're better than this as Americans. And you know, ever since I said I was joining Congress or I want to run for office, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been working on grassroots campaigns, voicing my opinion, being vocal against the inhumane conditions that people have to live in, whether it be in Glendale, Colorado, at the Birch Apartments. You know, I recently won a case against, you know, an apartment complex that was having people live in uninhabitable living conditions, and I won that case. I've won 4 cases already. You know, they'll tell you that you can't win, you don't have a voice. But when you keep pushing, and you keep fighting for what is right and what you believe is right, not what sometimes the majority what they believe is not what's right. You know, sometimes, you know, your voice is going to be one of many that has been silent. But I think as people come forward and start speaking up and voicing their opinion and being more vocal against the inhumane conditions, the travesties that are happening in America, all across this world. You know, what happened earlier in Belgium, a Pride Fest, somebody ran through a Pride Fest in Belgium and killed one individual. This is a time for minorities, people of color. You know, I know the Chinese government is watching what's happening in America. Our rights are being eroded by this horrible man. You know, Trump, I supported him on some things, but just the way he's made us look at each other and the vindictiveness of this man, he's just somebody I will never support, and I will never, you know, I never voted for him. I'm glad I never voted for him. You know, somebody that, you know, is responsible for killing all these people, putting people in harm's way. That's what he did. And the voters that voted for him, you also put people in harm's way. But you are redeemable. You might have went against your own country, your own values. To throw people out and put them to the wolves, that's not American. American is given a helping hand when somebody needs it. That's the true American spirit. That's the good spirit that lives in every American. But I'm going to end this video. If you guys want to read more about my campaign, go to jaredvaldez.com. Valdez for Congress. God bless America, and stay safe, and God bless